Thank you for joining us on this platform this beautiful day for Biafrans all over the world. It is a higher expectation that Simon Ekpa has gained access for freedom now, considering the fact that his appeal has actually approached. And we are also hearing that he has made it officially written to the United States Congress and, of course, the Knesset Parliament in Israel. How would you describe what is coming to Biafrans and the release of Simon Ekpa ahead of his appeal?
For me, it is a win-win for the Biafrans and for those people who believe in the struggle. Because ab initio, Simon Ekpa has always maintained that stance that he is not a terrorist, as alleged and claimed by those who went to Finland to lobby the Finnish government. So now, by every indication, ab initio, the US government and the Israeli parliament has now made the world known that Simon Ekpa is never and was never a terrorist in that aspect, that a man who is fighting for freedom should never be tagged a terrorist. That a man who is fighting for his freedom of his people should never be tagged a terrorist. If truly Simon Ekpa was a terrorist, as alleged and claimed by the Nigerian government, do you think that the Oval Office would acknowledge this Simon Ekpa's letter? Do you think that the Israeli parliament would also pick interest in Simon Ekpa's appeal? Now, Simon Ekpa is saying that every country should be very much aware in his forthcoming appeal, so that the Finnish government should not take sides, so that the Finnish government should not listen to a particular country, so that his voice also can be heard. That is what Simon Ekpa at this point is saying. And then we've seen from time memorial that the invasion of US bombing the Sokoto Caliphate has exonerated Simon Ekpa. He has even exonerated Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. That these are people who have an ideology to fight for the freedom of their people because of the conquest of the Fulani and the invasion of the Fulani. Now, I'm really sure the Fulani has always maintained that stance that the Nigerians belongs to them. And then the major problem and the major headache they are having at this point are the Biafrans, because the Biafrans have been so formidable to the extent that the Fulanis could not penetrate into their territory. And that is the reason why they were all out. That is why C.D.S. Musa, Malami and Co., other Buhari, they were all out to make sure that Simon Ekpa is off the track. Because once Simon Ekpa is off the system, they can go as far as taking over the nooks and the structures of Simon Ekpa. And now there are now information coming out that the French government was given a contract by the Nigerian government. What about billions? Siemens project in Ikoyi, after that deal was signed, and it was the vice president that pushed for that deal. I don't know the rationale behind this, but see, there are rumors that the reason their deal is for the Finnish government to jail Simon Ekpa, and we see that after MOU, memorandum of understanding, was signed in that aspect, Simon Ekpa was taken into custody. And even when the Finnish courts granted Simon Ekpa's release, yet the Finnish government refused to adhere to that court judgment. And then we've seen that Alex Trump has also in time past denounced Samuel Ekpa, and this is and this was a man who were both in the same party, who stood for the election of President Alexander Storm, and now he has now turned back against him because of what he got, or because of what he has gotten from the Nigerian state. So that's why Samuel Ekpa at this point he said that this appeal, that he is confident that he will be let go, that he will be let off the hook, because it is so glaring that all what Samuel Ekpa was accused of, it is now that the US government and the Israeli government is now accusing Nigeria of that, of terrorism. And the people who are the sponsors of this terrorism, the US government and the Israeli government is really dealing with them. That if truly Samuel Ekpa was a terrorist, the US government would have come out with fact-finding information. We saw that Valimore, that headed a US delegation to make fact findings about this insecurity in Nigeria. He told all the nooks and crannies of the country. He went as far as to Southeast, and then in the letter, in the 44 pages documents of letter that was presented to Donald Trump at the Oval Office, Samuel Ekpa's name was never mentioned as a terrorist. Samuel Ekpa's name and then Mazi Nnamdi name was never mentioned. So it showed that the forthcoming appeal of Samuel Ekpa, for me, there is light behind the tunnel.
Okay, looking at you talked about they talked about also getting witnesses from Nigeria here to testify against. I think the lawyers are making moves in that regard after they have also been granted leave of appeal, waiting for the time the court process will commence on the appeal process. Why is the lawyers demanding witnesses from Nigeria?
Because it will serve as a major boost for the beliefs of Samuel Ekpa. Not just witnesses alone in Nigeria, there are also what international, the likes of Susie Willie, who is willing. Susie Willie is the current present chief of staff to President Donald Trump, and then we have two congressmen, Butajang too, the one of the EU officials too, has said that he would also be on ground on that particular day for him to be a witness against the Nigerian state. So the witness are not just people who reside in Nigeria. These are people who were in Nigeria to make fact findings about the insecurity persisting in Nigeria and those sponsoring insecurity in Nigeria. So these are the approach and these are the mechanism in which Samuel Ekpa's lawyer is heading to, so that the world can see that there's a big conspiracy between the Nigerian state and the French government to keep a man who is innocent in detention, all because in the name of is fighting for freedom.
Don't you think that the president of Finland, Alexander Stubb, will still want to compromise by not releasing Samuel Ekpa, because the contract of which they signed that led to Samuel Ekpa taken to custody is still running up to this moment? Would that actually play out with international pressures that are coming in Finland now? Wouldn't you think that he can still insist that he is not going to be part of Samuel Ekpa's release? And what do you think at that point should be the consequences?
I think for him, he does not have that monopoly to decide when the international committees are now mounting pressure on him. You know what it means for him? That definitely, if you refuse to that, America and the G7s would cut ties off with him. And then let me take you back to history that Before now, the US government, sorry, the Nigerian government and the Finnish government does not have any bilateral relationship. But see, we see how the government of Nigeria were able to build that ties, build that momentum so as to ensure that Samuel Ekpa was taken into custody. And now we've seen that US and what Israeli government has picked interest. And let's not forget that US is frowning against terrorism, same as Israel. That any country who is sponsoring terrorism, the US government is not in support of a terrorist group in Nigeria. And that is the same ideology that Simon Ekpa was fighting for. That Fulani militias, this Boko Haram, they all have an agenda, and the agenda is the conquest, and the agenda is to make sure that most persons have been converted into Islam. And that was the basis that Simon Ekpa stated that no, he as a person would not allow that. Before we saw the rest of CDS Musa, which was the former minister for chief of staff for defense, labeled Simon Ekpa all different kinds of names. And today we've seen that Simon Ekpa has been exonerated by the US government. Simon Ekpa has been exonerated by the Finnish government. Because if Simon Ekpa has not been, if he was not exonerated, there is no way that the US office would not acknowledge his own letter. And then there is no way that the Israeli parliament would not also acknowledge the presence and the influence and the struggle of Simon Ekpa. And now let it be on the record that on the 22nd of this month there will be a heavy protest in Finland, that the Finnish people, indigenous, are also calling for the release of Simon Ekpa, saying that all the charges that was leveled against him were not true. And so I think, to me, that will send a signal to the Finnish president and to Alex and Aston, because he himself stated that freedom does not come easily. So I think along the line, he derailed in his own ideology that for you to become a sovereign state, you should fight for your freedom. But I think the money he got from the Nigerian state enticed him for him to neglect and forgot his own ideology, his own principles, and what he believed on. So I think now it is a very clear indication that Simon Ekpa appeal is closed, and the US and the Israeli parliament has picked interest, and then nothing can stop the freedom of the people. And then I'm really sure that, don't forget that if not for Simon Ekpa interest in the southeast would have been overrun by the Fulani militias. Today we've seen what is happening in Kwara State and some parts southwest country, and yet despite that we've seen most guides, local vigilantes on ground to safeguard lives, properties in the southeast. So on that aspect, you have to give kudos to the likes of Mazi Namkanu, what is the supreme leader himself, and also to Simon Ekpa, who has on the other hand stood on the ideology and then maintained, and then he has also maintained that resolute, that come sun, come rain, he will fight for the freedom and the liberation of his people. And now the Finnish government is now in disarray. That we've seen that one of the ministers in Alex and Aston cabinet resigned some weeks ago because of this